Tanga to je chajer sonro shinjama to je ponjamba sarja lomba tabra je bega shaje jaba shardang zanza durjin jen de lo naru da marba mala je gambo ba ba mo ba jawan rogong ba ka je loma nan je da jong je dan de na tsara tam je da lama la ba la Jesus Lo son yun dun jen zun nga la wan, din de tong jen de be ge le zo, da ge lo chi son ro war, zin je lab do sor, chu lam dun ro war, zin je lab do lam zhu wa zi war, zin je lab do zo, zhu wa yi ji zun ja war, zin je lab do zo, gang ge din jen de war jong, ga ba me pa me pa dan. Mwami bandu me ba tade do me don je me ribanye je je dan ba zo ba san je ma nan je dan ba de la san zar do jen za va la ma je je gu zon do je se nan do ge ju lan pe de da ge dan ba dan san je je don ja jen ban ra ba san je la do so nang ga dang nyam be sin jin tam ji ji don de Din de la na min ba yang da ba zu bu san ji je gong fang rum bo je to par sha di ji de dan bu ju kan yi sin de do nyam su la mar ju nyam be san ba jiang chun ju de sim ji ba dang chu ni be gun ju de gu long ma ner bu go ne sim ban cha de la gang sim bar sa we chu ne dan bu ju gong ba ji ba de re de la da lin tap ju ba ka re lin tap de la dor ji song yip ji he dun yo ba le da ra sunju sobje ba zalong tigle ningma thuk tukje sa shi banda ki ting yores
Again, cultivate a motivation thinking. May all sentient beings, limitless as space, attain the state of perfect and complete enlightenment. And listen. This is the motivation that you should cultivate when listening to the Dharma and then practicing the Dharma. This motivation of bodhicitta is the unmistaken motivation for listening to the Dharma. And the Dharma we are listening to is the Gong Chik, the Buddha's single intent. We are now in the supplement, which consists of 47 Vajra statements. And we are now in Vajra statement number 38, which reads, Channels, winds, and vital essences that possess poisonous sediments are particularly profound.
Ta tambon de le ying yi ba de la de ne dao song ge si ba ge de ne za long te le hai na ma da ba cha de yo re se per na he dang jing ge long ma da de mo jin je za ma da do cha jin ji te le ma da song de na yin zan dan de ma da ba cha de yo re song ge yo re then Jikten Songgu ganda denbare jetang ke ko madabare yin yang ta nyamlin sibalan de hajang samne ji cha de yo bare song
Madabade.
Madabade
And so others say that the three poisons that the three poisons, the activity of the three poisons that has solid, the channels, winds, and drops must be purified. And so I say that anger or hatred has solid or defiled the winds, and ignorance has defiled the channels, and attachment has defiled the drops. And so Jikten Sumgön says that from a general perspective, that is true. They are impure, but that in itself, in terms of practice, is a profound point.
Andala kanzanda wo sum we ne sung yo ren ji tin sung go madab da tambo de kareres na tan ji tin de kan che wa lan zon de tambo che za long tigle som madab ba ma tambo ni da de ba ji yong go ma re wa so kan che de re jumsen kareres na jo me ba lan rewen jong go ma re khasong ko wa lan cham che ge za wa de nyumong tuksom re te tin sa ka chalong thile te tene madaba yin go da gos te che re tene ni ba te ta ti madaba te takbar se yong ba yin na den de kanza tene Then Java lap changing drop simple simba tabo kanza chad yuris gainsana salon tigle madaba the tapar seba Java lap changing jayoba delatin. Then ta sumbande kantar ndi docha hedan tumo sum yuba delatine then ta tartogi yundi delatine jekyorwaso. Da tela pe te kare ya yorisina perna ngarang zo ke brang ke hing le brang ke nebe mingo na dik saung lu na wote machang wa gogre was di machang wa de so le tine de ni ya ji hen wa so.
So then according to Jikten Sumgön, then there are three kinds of individuals, or kind of individuals that prove that that point that this being defiled actually is a profound point. And that is, number one is so that first of all, one is born into this world with impure channels, winds and drops. So it's not that one's channels, winds and drops are first pure and then they become impure. But we're already born like that, because that's the result of a cause that we already have created. And without a cause, there can't be a result. So the cause, the root of the three realms of samsara are the three afflictive emotions, the three kinds of poisons. And these are naturally, of course, impure. And so that's the first one, that naturally we are born that way. And then secondly, there is the individual who purifies the impurity. And so that is when someone has accomplished really a very vast activities. And so then the channels, winds and drops become purified. So the impure becomes purified. And then the third kind is that the three poisons of attachment, aversion and ignorance, even though we say that they are a fault, ultimately it is that this fault itself becomes the cause for purity, actually. So for example, if you want to grow like a molasses tree, then you need a seed to plant it first to have the result of a tree growing. And the seed is first planted into impure soil. And then from that impure soil grows the pure tree.
Ta den do cha hedang demo si ban de do sun de zo de za song ge la ni jie ge yo ba res za song ge la ni jie ge yo de de ni pe na za ye ba le de ne hedang dang za yong ba le de ne do cha za wen ma le de ne demo se da te ta we je za krang ge to le da ne de yo res. That the drawer sipa layang, the drawer yundu yang, kusum mundun jur sortiang, titoni, jorgo yoris. That the indu tambo perna, then hedang tawayina, then hedang and the hukchimbo landu, then de ta hedang zena controsen and the hajang hukchimbo landu, the top the mahurba, the capsule, then ta gomne. Hedang poa dang ses, ducha wang dang se, yangmana de chin dang ses, and under retene, the mo usar dang ses, and that and raven, korang doxumbo de la tine, tene, da tara can drive the song jigo your ears on. That tell poet rejected in Antanasi, you are Maboyer.
So the three poisons of attachment, aversion and ignorance arise independent of the three channels. So the it is said in the right channel, or anger or hatred, dwells in the right channel, and desire in the left channel, and ignorance in the central channel. So they naturally dwell within those channels. And then when they become liberated or purified, then in a similar way, in a similar order, they are actualized as the three kayas. So first, when strong anger arises or hatred arises, and without losing the power of the hatred arising, or like this, the force of hatred arising, utilizing that force and meditating, and then leads to hatred merging with the transference of consciousness. And for attachment, when one practices in the same way with attachment, then that leads to the merging of attachment with great bliss. And when one practices that with ignorance, it leads to the merging with luminosity. And so this is how actually through the three poisons, the result is actualized.
Ta tambo hedang poa tang se hibandela poa de se tsor namba nga tablang nga gune sungkyo bare. Tambo de hedang hinji dang posore, hedang hinji lang posores. Hinji lang posor de pena drawo tawe je suso lo control shuk chenpo je lang yongdu. Dene di control de manyam bar dega rang to ne dene di hedang je sak drawo de lang. Pal yin de hinji pa shukchenpo tanda je tanda gondu, tene hedang ki hiba da ko sab rangyin ri de du, dela tene rangyin ka tene draw wangdun da tuba, tanda ke timdra yore sumare. Tene nipa de la hedang tara de lamar po wa sum, ta lama la po wa. Lama la po wa de lama da susu gu de lama rewa susu guru. De lam po saran de tene soso yang hedang tanda hukchenpo lang tanda zhiyendu hedang ke di hukde man jazo golo top de ma khorba tinga ne tene soso ge minsam la de lama gom ta lama sorkang tang tele chunga jejong ka che gom na tene lama gom du tene soso hedang de ta melong ta wi higaran yin zang kola sarcha chenpo ji yores dela tene lama de namjun ta mandra wa ha jang ke tene sipo gomto ko yori semna gandar je jingxi yongsu zo ba de lama dol pa pong na de to ko yo zang ta de ndu de le tine tani ta lama de ke ko zon to ke sin la dan je so so ju le charmen ba o de ta ba.
So the first one is for hatred or anger, and merges with the transference of consciousness. And so there's 5 different ways in which that happens, or methods. And the first one is when anger arises, it is transferred into compassion. And so when strong anger arises, without actually losing the force of the anger, one meditates in the anger itself, and one meditates then on a very strong feeling of compassion. And so then, because the nature of anger is natural clarity, then due to interdependence, it is said that one will then bring one's enemy under one's control. And number 2 is the anger or the hatred transferring into the guru. And again, when strong anger arises, without the force of the anger degenerating, without losing the force of the anger, one meditates within the anger, and one visualizes at the point between one's eyebrows the guru, maybe the as big as one's, like the width of one's finger, or so. And then, because anger is by nature mirror-like, it possesses a very strong quality of clarity. And so therefore, when you then visualize that guru at the point between your eyebrows, the guru appears even more clear than usually. And so then your entire awareness then is transferred into the Guru, and as a result, the blessings of the Guru's body, speech, and mind then arise within one's own mind stream.
Tene yibade the hedang mugul powa so. Sumba de zunyo sumba de hedang mugul powa so. Ta hedang mugul pozor de tane da soso le hedang lang du jinshi ge hedang de lam se jin zam je ne soso ga ha go wa ji soso hedang lang so wa de. Dem de o de tene da soso ge lama le mugu ha ja ge mugu Khenpo gonne tanda chi indu te teletina ta be ndewe chimbo tungu yore song re de pe na naro ba ke ta darate yin parche dala so ba ke nu ji indu tene kong ke je de so je yor de ma ze de tene ta mugu Khenpo jin tanda chi de ti ke lam ne tene chogung ro ke to ba ni ba re song re den za hedam mugulam powa de sumba de tene yeba de hedam jinram powa song yan de hedam lang yong ba kap so tene namjung nga so je da hedam ko la so ba gom de de so hedam lang wa dan hedam lang so wa ha ko wa se te ma ta tene di hedam lo de tene hedam ko la de pa ka jor ne da ji yin du tene hedam ko la jinram de ha jang ka sa bo yong to go yore se Delatine lan de tamje wangden da wala so ba tani timjer chimbo so go yore.
And then the third one is hatred, anger transferring into devotion. So when strong anger arises, first one instantly recognizes it with mindfulness. And then one gives rise to a very strong devotion to the Guru. And then if that was the cause, then the result will also be very powerful. For example, also Naropa, due to his devotion, no obstacle and so on, nothing could affect him negatively. And that was through the power of devotion. So when anger is transferred into devotion, then it leads to the arising of the supreme siddhi. Number 4 is anger transferring into the generation stage. So when strong anger arises, and first one recognizes the anger instantly, and then one meditates on the Yidam deity, then this mind of anger, this angry mind, then transforms into the Yidam deity, and that leads to a very clear visualization of the generation stage. And due to interdependence, one will, as a result of this, bring the various gods and spirits under one's control.
Tene hedang chaja chimbur powa so dan de nenga chimbo che rinde nenga de kanda cha de yoresina ngaran so namju gom ja nyamni chi chaja chimbo de gon de tene dan de kap kap so nga zo yang control lang king ke lang control lang king lang ya de na yong go yorwa de kap so tambo control de la da zam je Tini control del te chadu chaja chimbo posor de sartong gungo wala po go yore. Sartong gungo wala po andu yedang korang sarbaran yin ri de sarwa la hyuk te sam ja go yo mares. Yedang korang sarbaran yi cha de yore. Tas de indu tombaran yin po go yore. Ta tombaran yin po andu yedang toni ri samyan rawo che phating gona le la bo yo mares. Tenra yin za dambo yedang korang la ta ne. Yedang la andu Tene tele ti tapje himjo gayam mzin ko hedang ko de la jerji taandu tene ta gare chag yoresena hedang korang de jerji taandu hedang ke korang ke je ngo ndaw de sarva cha de hyukchim bo yinza tene sibo hyu je ta to ko yore namjun namju gom jasa yinda la te le tsara ragmare tani te ta andu tani tongba de ranking ke gare chag yoresina hipa de hedang korang ngo de la hedang sin lo do je da yap da khado jin je me pa yin za ranking ko ngarang zo je tongsang ke lo dan na wa de khya ya le la bo yores ta de da khan du tani yang ta je de dong bu so so ma 혈마 동바 동장도 쇼소 혈마 송바 sarwa sarjang solo choya te himba no jom joma som thoni tene sartong songdo joba tanda ga ngala tene lo ne ta ba dan de hedang chaja chimbo poa se that is.
And then the fifth one is hatred transferring into mahamudra, and there's a very essential point to be understood here. And so normally we practice meditation, we practice mahamudra, and so it does happen sometimes that anger arises. It can arise. So when anger arises, then one merely observes the anger arising first, and then how it is transferred into mahamudra is that so then the essence that the anger is transferred to is the clear and empty mind. And so because anger is already inherently clear just by nature, then here there is no need to make a special effort to have a very clear mind. So therefore, the way it is transferred is into emptiness. So of clarity and emptiness, not clarity but emptiness, because it's already clear. And to see the empty essence of anger is not very easy. So first one observes the anger arising, and then one does not analyze it, but one just looks at it directly without analyzing it. And this direct looking has this quality of clarity, and if one looks directly at its essence, then it will appear, one will see it very clearly. So one will be able, the one who views, the viewer will be very clear, because the anger is very clear. And so then it is a meditation that arises that is unlike our usual meditation when anger arises, and we practice in this way. And so then by having very sharp clarity, observing the anger directly, then you recognize that actually there's not really anything there. So it doesn't have, the anger there's nothing there, and it has no color or shape or anything like that. So it just, by viewing that, observing that, it becomes just naturally completely empty. And this is how actually the emptiness of the anger naturally arises. So the point here is that one doesn't fall into both extremes. So one doesn't just fall into the side of emptiness where one just thinks it's just as empty, there's nothing else. But also one doesn't enter into fixation with, again, overly sharp clarity. But one practices this balanced union of clarity and emptiness. And in this way, then that's the crucial point of anger being transferred into mahamudra.
Tani docha tabe yina jirtang docha wang da sewa hyo yore de wang la tini gawa che gabye ke tini jugdo la soba nyamni te wendu tini docha de dechin ki hila churjon ro yorwa dan dara de tabe thoni jirtang ke namje ngarang so yang docha che yong bakap so docha ke ngo dewa inzang kola che dewa ya perwala bechor te sam go yo maris ngo dewa imbala namba sarwa chad yorite namba sarwa thola ta ngarang so ke sarcha de zo je ne tandra je yang sarcha zo je dun docha hiba de ko yola hin chocho hin ba hyok chocho je indu Teni Ranjim Motobas, Ngo Deva, Namba Sarva, Ranjim Motoba. Ranjim Motoba teke, Teni Yola Himba Huyatela, Gango Zelando, Jiyongo Yorwa Tenza. Ngo Sawa, Ngo Deva, Namba Sarva. Namba Sarva. Teni Ranjim Motoba. Teni da data ton nyamni chi teni karse dara ngarang sun ducha ke dedong ki hil sar jota yoro dedong ki hil sar photo ko yores da lamsan dedong ki hil sar pho ma thab da yin yang gantan ducha ke tambo ducha de che ha kwa zam cha ni ba din ducha ke yinwang de khom ro wa zam cha teni sumba la da de nyamni da bondong ji indu teni da dedong ki hil sar jota ba na yong ko yores.
And so then, when we practice with desire or attachment that arises, the wang to say is another kumbe wang to shi dire.
Da
Wang di wang re.
Wang teri.
Wang dire wa.
Kachang nge chek lamni ra. Jumeng devil tas ta te jiba cha do. Number one hyogo ra. Wang kenyam ni te dewa ya as.
Is kul dewa.
Dewa ye wa.
Ming to tan ra.
Wang ten mingora.
Dewa kare mingore.
Dewa ye nyam ni ji tang ro lam go yorwa. Wang te ji chos. Tri ke te lam. Te nga su te nyam ni ji inde. Tene dewa de so ma chazo. De chin hir san yor.
So when we practice with desire or attachment, then it is conjoined with receiving empowerment. So through empowerment, as you mentioned before, we become kind of authorized to practice with bliss, and then the four joys arise in progressive and reversed order. So when we practice in this way, when we practice with desire, as a result, through desire transforms into the wisdom of great bliss. And so first, when desire arises, the essence of desire already is blissful. So therefore here one doesn't make a special effort in the focus on bliss. So here one applies more focus on clarity, the clear appearance. So here the clarity is treated more important than the bliss itself. And so when desire arises, it arises independence on an object of desire. And when it arises depending on an object, then desire should be recognized as naturally having no thought about the object. So that is then, there are three aspects to it then. So first, the essence of it is bliss, of desire is bliss. Then its appearance is clarity, and its nature is non-thought. And so when one practices with desire in this way, then desire is transformed into the wisdom of empty bliss. And of course that will not just happen like that right away. So the first step is to one is able to simply recognize the desire. And then second, one becomes able to not become controlled by it. And then after that, the third step is then one continues this practice, and so it develops, it improves. And as it develops, it just develops into that wisdom of empty bliss.
Tene da demo usar da se so da de jertang ke chane tarate 추주거 데모도 추주거 ran yin cha de yore ran yin ke dong ub tone de yin za da yin na yang ran zo la da demo ge do ba dun se ne yore da ji jingye da te chon dan chua la so bo ge tone demo ge do ba dun Dala tene tene ngarang so che dream shim masarwa tene che tom tom ro chando yang so zo ta temo ko wang ke yong yong ko yorwa de yin za ta ndala temo ndala zo ta sarcha de zo we ding go yo ba re so ta temo ndala sarcha zo ding ba ndala yang minga ti da che thoni nyamni ma na te ga za temo la sarcha ding go se na su che ge yong to ko yo ma re cheparat temong de la tinhi timba ne tingo na hajang kale kapo hyu cha de yoris tomo ke londe ngarang zo namjin u de hine gom de wog lo semte de yang hajang kale kapo no de wog de thol semne ya la kale kapo ndo je yor ta yin che medo la so ba khado la je hiba de na lamsang de to ko yor de 다 때목 답을 돌려 진시 생고나 하장 깔래 가보 인자 단달라 민가 가다 요레 수바이나 되니 nga랑 존디 조 대와라 되니 소소가 라마 되니 소소가 라마다 제디 되니 소강당 양원은 조강다 같이서 소소가 지나다 되니 소소가 대와라 대답이 곰나 되니 라마 될지 남주나 제저글로 뭐지 가도 염 데이터 찍고 자마인바 데니 라마텔 우저 페나 니마타 니마한테 니마 찍 자마인바 니마 범들라고 우저 송거요레다 데이터 제게 데니 우저 데이터 춘노바 다 데이터를 데니 미바텐 데치인도 데니 따라 티모고 또바 탐진 렘지 데니 가발라서바게 데니 비용 삼진 잡아 요 송거요레 다 된다 연장 다랑 가랑 주 뉴몽바 숨본들 띠네 되니 네갑 그치 소속 문도바게 동하와 담지 희와 되니 디오도 람름바 게 된다 냠니를 누르 띠네 람 게되니 냠다 또바게 용띠 담지 예와 되니 다도 다 산제지 공방도 봐 탐지 단달라 안 토도 요상 다 도숨 본다네 되니 양 네갑서 자롱 도도 제반데 자롱 틀레 도도 제반데 독제 하자서 도스다 마다박 찬 소요라 되니 하자서 소연 중심 데레스
So then what is how changes so then ignorance merges with luminosity, and so in general it is said on the ultimate level, ultimately the nature of ignorance is actually dharmakaya. However, we also speak about 7 different ignorant states of mind, or kind of concepts or states of ignorance. For example, like sluggishness and having doubts and delusion and so on. Basically, there's a lack of mental clarity, a mental dullness when one is controlled by ignorance. And so therefore, to turn it into luminosity, the most important focus is the aspect of clarity. And that alone, just knowing that is not enough, because if one is just told, so you have to treat the clarity as most important, nobody will be able to do that just by hearing that. So in order to be able to do that, we also need an essential instruction. And that is because, in particular with ignorance, it's extremely difficult to sustain mindfulness. So normally when we practice shamatha, calm abiding, and we use our breath as an object of focus, that is actually extremely difficult. It's very difficult for the mind to focus on the breath. It's easier to focus on an actual object like a flower, for example. So therefore, holding mindfulness of ignorance is extremely difficult. And so therefore, the essential instruction for this, needed for this, is one visualizes the guru, the size of a finger width or a finger itself, whichever way, whichever size, at one's navel, and not as the usual, the normal person that we are acquainted with in how the way he looks normally, not just like that, but thinking of the guru there as being really brilliant with light, like sunlight shining, and not just one sun, but it said he is shining like 100,000 suns. So one focuses just on that, and it is that then gradually ignorance comes to cessation. So such visualization is very beneficial for bringing ignorance to cessation. And so now, therefore, in general, therefore, it is really through the three poisons. The three poisons itself, as we can see, therefore become a profound point, even though temporarily they lead to everything undesirable, like suffering and so on. And gradually, all of that becomes pacified as one continues to practice on the path, and as one then keeps continuing to practice, then they turn into experiences and realizations, and ultimately to the state of enlightenment. And so for all those reasons, and Jikten Sumgön says that the three poisons that in their impure state are a very profound point when it comes to the channels, winds, and drops practices.
Dorji song sunchu soga bade. Dorji tekpa lamram lapa song dere. Dandela yang yinge ye denu som lam lapa song. De nyamsu linkin la ganza song. Then driver topcha la yang song. Ye lapa song. Lam denu som. Ye denu som. Lam lapa som. Then driver topcha som. Driver topcha som. Da tera windu da ye denu de da ndurwan do de ngomba som derwa. Then lam lapa som lapa tsutram dang lapa tingin je da lapa hirab derwa. Teni da nyamsulin ke ganza de teni sotar durwa sotar nyamsulin ke dang jancho samba nyamsulin ke dang teni da tiba chimbo sanga ke nyamsulin ke drawe ne pa ganza wambor iwa sene dra ji se dra sungku yore da ten du dikap sun jitin sungun ke 다 라바스음데 상하 도르지테 버 그냥네 차도 요레서 타직도 제 간사 이완로 생각 해 그냥스 링고와 뭔가 힘 먹고 차요 말이서.
Then we come to Vajra statement 39. It says, the three trainings are also the gradual path of the mantra Vajrayana. And so he's saying that because some claim that now we have, they say that so the basis, the foundation are the Tripitaka, the three scripture collections. The path are the three higher trainings, and then there is three results to be obtained. And so the basis, the foundation are the three scripture collections, the Tripitaka, the Sutra section, the Abhidharma, and the Vinaya. And then the three higher trainings are the training of ethical conduct, samadhi, and wisdom. And then there's those who practice that. For example, there are those who practice the path of the Vinaya according to the Pratimoksha. And then there's those who practice the Bodhisattva path. And then there's those who practice the Mahayana Vajrayana path. So others make these divisions depending on the mental capacity of the individuals. So they are grouped into different kinds of practices. But Jikten Sumgön says that actually the three higher trainings are also practiced in the Vajrayana vehicle. So it depends on, there's not different individuals. Individuals are not divided. Everyone has to practice it all. So it is not the case that a person practices certain practices but does not practice others, so they have to practice them all.
Oh yeah, that de corrections na labasam de pena ngarang zo sangha nyamni jidu jirtang ke sangha ke zawa tamsai de yela ke tamsai sang yore. Teni tendu de paji ye songa yina teni tamsai juye se zadong juye. Teni de pa de da marathon sangha ke tamsai sayam bunde se na yore. 단 대소 탐지 라바 추름치 라바 차도 요리송 일단 라바 추름치 라바 레장 제조걸로 쏜 거야 땡 사와 차도 요리 뭐뭐 비거는 되네 다 상하 그 값은 알아서 기름 라거다 조름게 되네 송족기 이히라서 바냠슬림 반데 땡긴지 그 라바 차도 요리 나 남주행 와서 때 debut Tenzin me dandawa la debut long dandawa course pache nga koram thongni na debut merbe
mere
debut long dandawa course sare Tenzin me dandawa te debut long dandawa course oh te enza ta jiram de tamje ta jizo gnyam ni tamje tingin je cha de yore te enza tingin je ga labas Tenindan deke tara nyamda topake ta ji gomlo gomdang ni zonde teni remchi tike nyamda topake ndrebung to jorn de teni toso ke nenga tamje ha kwande gomzin de hirap cha za hirap je laba cha yu za ta dorji te lamla ya laba sam do seda so je gam do lab to sa mare wa
ane konsa shen ban nang And then, so regarding the three higher trainings, they are also practiced in the secret mantra, not just in the lower vehicles. Because, for example, in the secret mantra, we have the root and the branch samayas. And when they are more expanded, there are 14 root samayas or downfalls from root samayas. And then they are expanded further, and we speak about a division of 100,000 Vajrayana Samaya. And they are all, so according to Jikten Sumgön, they are all the higher training of ethical discipline, And in fact, he says that one has to observe them, one has to guard them, these Samaya, even more than the previous vows. And so then also in the secret mantra, we visualize the form of the deity, and in the completion stage, we practice the unified primordial awareness, and that is the higher training of samadhi. So that is because once the recitation of the mantra is the wind, and the samadhi, the visualization on the deity, is like fire. And so through wind and fire, one practices the generation and completion stages, and that is the training of samadhi. And then also, it is the Vajrayana also practices the training of wisdom, because as one practices meditation, one's experiences and realizations increase. And so one practices until one reaches the ultimate result. And along that path of practice, one knows the various stages of practice to get there. And so that is the higher training of wisdom. So therefore, the three higher trainings are not just practiced in one certain vehicle, but they are also practiced in the Vajrayana path.
Oh yeah, that the dorji song yipju pade. Parar sindro tipa sumjar lam dere that de caps ta yang par di caps karesung ko yesna parar di simpa toponde tene tipa sunga galam re is ni tur anjar jangsem Dikapso Nintu Tang, Dikapso Tipasum de Nintu Tang, Jangsam Tang, then Sangha Tipasum la Goyore. Then Tandela de son Jitin Song de son de Songoya de Yinketa, Parade Simba Trubonde, Nintu la Sobagal Nyamiri Mato, Sangha Galana, that of which Goyo Maresi. Parade Simba de Nintu Galam race. Lam Nyamli Ris. Jancho Jok Chusum Subdun Kazan and Himambu Humba, de Jancho Simple Lamji Nyamli Ris. Sangha la Deni Kaya my bed Sangha Singlam Senator Yoris, there is Song Yoris Ying. And the Mari Parade Simbanda Singlam Shibata Singlam Jatanche Yore Singlam Shibanda Talam Deni Par. They are mine, but Paroni and Slam Jura.
And then there is Vajra statement number 40. It says the 6 perfections are the path of all 3 vehicles. And so normally when we divide the threefold path, the 3 vehicles, we say it is the Shravakas, Partakas, and Bodhisattvas. But here, the 3 vehicles are understood to be the Sravakas, the Bodhisattvas, and the Vajrayana path, the 3 vehicles. And the reason why Jikten Sumgön needs to make this statement is because there is others who say that the 6 paramitas are the path practiced by the Sravakas, and they are not necessary in the Vajrayana path. And they say that those 37 aspects conducive to enlightenment that we mentioned before, they are the path of practice for bodhisattvas and not of the Vajrayana. And they say that the Vajrayana path is neither of those 2, but it's a different kind of path, like kind of like an in-between path.
Ta tambo chirtang singlam hibande je yore singlam hibande perna nipa tongji hi de jula jewa de jula je chogaran baton sana tawaye na tene loma chedin deba da mugun tarto demba lama chedin tene ninje tang tene da so ke che minga da so tamjelan keba ta te ta win zong de teni che perna wang yepa kapsu ngus che wang sumpa kapsu ringma ngus ti ma go ba teni lama te ke ngote ba la tine lama te ke ngote tang de ha chang ke teni ta nga rang so parken de hina che yungdi zar chimbo thone yungdi chimbo thone te tang ha go thone te endu 대양 제 닌지 그 하장 그 닌지 침보 그 지심바돈 드라우드엔드 인플로먼트 그다 무그 듬탁 무그 대니라 티네 드니 디줄라 타토기 히드나 줄을 제와 요레스 다 데이터에 나 싱람도 차용 거 요레 이난디 값서 싱람 히반데 드니 람 강라 티마고바 파르드 심바단데 소라 티마고바 게지 싱람 히바데 발랑가데 제 람힘바지 유스네 Rasongar, then not out the business of the Chaki or Laparta. Dickups, Lamna Tambo Hion in Singlam in Roda Sando, your Maravas, Dainza. Singlam in Rogan, Rotomaro. Penangaranzo Yamana, Namdel and Ro Yamana, J. Moran and Roya Simado, Tenibo, Caron, Jill and Rodan go your race. Teni Kaya Mai by Langaj in Rogana, Kambajan Rogan. 사추 살아 추 더고요 말와 다시 사다 사자진 로건 다른 보죠 되니 랑가라 진 파르체 만포 요사나 어떤 로건 내가 보여 말와 싱람 히바다 책 남준 싱람 히바다 베나 나서 러지 강론 로거나 람 침보지 주yon 되니 만로네 나서 인지케 쇼트카트 당 라마라 지금 로드 사이라 조람다고 조다 차다 람이 힘바노 되는 모란도 슬람이 대야 많이 되라 야만제 ta la so hunan ro sa yo de na ne ma so ne so so ti pa ro de ya kha do ju so ro.
So this kind of in-between path of the secret mantra, so here we need to develop the wisdom, the ultimate definitive wisdom in our mind. And for that to arise, first there has to be a qualified disciple who possesses faith and genuine devotion, and then a qualified guru who possesses genuine compassion and also is skilled in passing on the essential instructions. So, for example, when he confers the fourth empowerment, then in this third empowerment, without having to rely on an actual consort, then the guru is skillfully able to introduce the meaning of the fourth empowerment and kind of transmit the great qualities contained in that empowerment on, also with great compassion. So he's skilled in doing that. And so that for that also one must have a disciple that possesses genuine devotion. And so when they come together, then the ultimate wisdom will arise within their mind. So it is, in a way, a step is bypassed, is a quicker path that way. So it is just a quicker kind of shortcut that leads us to the same place, but it doesn't mean that one doesn't need any of that the other paths don't exist there, like the paramitas and so on. It just means that one skillfully cuts quickly through all these paths. For example, there's different ways of traveling somewhere. You can go on an airplane or in a car, or you can walk, and then it's more difficult. So without having to rely on like various vehicles to get somewhere, there is this kind of directly cutting through path, which is like the secret mantra.
Then the Gandara Jimba Sutum Zuba Sunte, Sunang Tso Chad Yore, then something that Hirani Hik Tso Chad Yore, then Zunde de Nichalo Draw Sinking Chandu, that Sony, Jisi Tony Zobana Matimba, then in Revo Sanji got top to go Mares, then that part of the Simbanda.
So then, after 6 parameters, generosity, discipline and patience are the accumulation of merit. Meditation and wisdom are the accumulation of wisdom. And diligence supports both accumulations. And it is said if one doesn't gather both accumulations, one will not be able to attain enlightenment. And for this reason, the paramita path of practice has to be practiced in all 3 vehicles.
Oh yeah, that you the Dorjison Yipji Hik Bade. Punlo Pinsun Tamsing number Jason, Tamsing number Jas. Tangazo Pun Lop Hibande, Pun se Dorji Lopun Tang, Lop Dorji Loma. And the Tamje Tamsing number Songo Yureson, that is all tere. And that's on Jerry. Dandala young Ying Yitzar Scenery, Jatan, Tatson Roje, Dorj Lopung at Tamsay Rokan, so Magola Tavan Roje. Then Dorj Loma get Tamsay Saboji, huge song to go on Roje. Then Dorj Loma at Tamsay Yana, Tanya Chando, Dorj Lopun, Kekjin, Notre Mite one row, Tetawaje, Tatson Roje, Chano, Zang, Jikten Sungo, Tamsay, Nyam Pari song. Songo Yore song, Dorj Loma get Tamsay. Songo Yoba Yindo, Dortlobunga Tamse Songo Yore song.
Next is Vajra statement 41. It says the pledges held by the Acharya and the disciple are the same. And so here the Acharya refers to the Vajra master, and then the disciple is the Vajra disciple. And that so Jikten Sumgön says that both of them equally have to observe Samaya. And the reason for saying that is because some people may claim, or generally it might be claimed, that the Vajra master doesn't actually really have to observe the Samaya, and it's more that the Vajra disciple has to observe it. And then if the Vajra disciple loses the Samaya, then it's broken, but that's not the fault of the Vajra master. So in response to that, Jikten Sumgön says that they both have to keep Samaya, the Vajra disciples as well as the Vajra master.
Tate ndu tarade sanga ju sarmanandu lopon pawo genze satong ju genandana tas jirtang sibo yore. Tenen sibo kare yore sina satong ju ge yore. Tinandana tene tarade dorji loma ke tene pena dorji lopunye ba ina tene zatong tambo njongso. Ti zatong ju ge te njongram te ha go yore de man doring yin de zhangga man ro du zatong de jier song yo ma re de. Zatong tambo de zatong che hyu chang go yore. Den zang tambo ni tambo de che hyu tini ni ba tini sum ba de go dan ra ling go de ma do. Yang zhangga ma nyong den zatong che chong ro so na go lang no de nor de sa re. Den de dan dere ngudrup lopuni kansa dorjin zimbaye ngudrup lopuni bane devetala ni bane zaw tong tang pro hies da dorji lopu soso dorji lopu ni la ni ba la so ba da chena zadong tang bon jong yong go yo ba yin de teni yang dorji loma la so ba lam ba ni yo na zadong je ba la so ba jong yong ba song yo res ben darade simjin de da dim ba la simsun jin ba je ba rim da juni ba de simsun jin ba juni ba simjin de ba dim ba simsun jin si de ba juni ba je ba ra juni nga nor do ra dorji loma de da loma de simjin de dim ba dorji loma cha de yo ra 가서 돌전제 봐요. ngudu 보지는 대외들은 만 잡도 못 하고 되게 깔랜데 봐요. 동안이 봐요. 돌지 뻔한 거 봐요. 봐요. 신나서 뭐 이거 취사서 대범은 나 봐요. 그러면 줄을 말로 양성을 쓰니로 서버도 보다 공모선 본보 산진 아니 본보 산진 아다니 텔레니지 제바인스 제바데 때린다 봐. 다라 주니 버린다. 주니 봐. 돌지 로마라 니나 네 저동 주니 반요. 대인잔다 본로 핀순이가 다 간다 야부 송고 요리스
So they both have to keep the Samaya, and in the new tantric system, also the Acharya Vira spoke about the 14 root downfalls of the secret mantra, and so in there so he said that the first one is to not humiliate or kind of disregard the Vajra master is considered the first root downfall. And so there's actually a very specific order to those 14 root downfalls. So if one just mixes them up, then one's understanding will be mistaken. So it is said that this first one of humiliating or not respecting the Vajra master is the first one. So that's the gravest Vajra downfall of the Vajrayana, of the secret mantra vows. And then as the vows go on in the list, they become increasingly less heavy. So therefore the order is also essential. So for example, the first one is to not to disrespect or kind of denigrate the Vajra master is the first root downfall. So that's the most important one. And then, for example, the 8th one is to abuse the 5 aggregates, which are actually the 5 Buddhas. Is this the eighth one? And the 12th one is to cause like upset or kind of irritation or frustration in the minds of those sentient beings who possess faith. So in any case, these are the samayas that both the Vajra master and the Vajra disciple have to observe.
Puno pinso tamsai nyambar che song yung bakabso andala perna andere bache ke ama je se yabayina bate ke sami ke lesa yabare bate nyawala je go yore ona ama je ke bache se yona karare sina ame bate se ndu ama de ke sami ke lesa yomare yina ama de nyawala je go yore Nyawala Jego la Jigbachare. Sami Gilesa Masa Chepa Yosan, Dikpa Chechong Tang, Dunga Chechong Yore. De Yundo Dara de Dorji Lopon da Loma Tamse Nyandu, Loma Tamse Nyansuna Dikpa Chia Yore, Dunga Chia Nyongo Yore. Dara Pajik Ama Sepat na Yin Chango Yore. Jumsin Kala Sena, Kading Kichane. Dorji Lopon Shiban de Kantar. Ngaran sola che hirap ke make jinking ke tane ta tu kantar sanje mus pepa da che mi ba ta je cha yong yo re ngaran so khansong ko dongha ke jam sola ta traverse ba la thap tung khin je del last ju ka din jin je yong tha mi ba re namju ngaran so de sung go yo re Yundi Nintu Gunda Nyamna Yangs Kadin Sanji Gul Lakba Zavalama Halo Sansalo Somanda Kadin Kichane, Teni Kadin Tela Che to say Yombaina, Teni Be Diba Chamber, Namjung Aranzo, Lama Gaviki, Kuyapchi, Sendo and the Lama Gaviki, Kuyapchi, Senkin de Lama Gaviki Zotan or Chandu. Chapsi ke janda je hyogla korang che gyap ji go samara je go ya ninka chimbo yo nga te ta je go nyo nga chunjong be da dambo chu hyön da gan la de ta ngone sa ta anjin tan de mala ran la cha de de loma ke te ha ko yo mare ha ma o tu dikpa mang po je sa ro yo ran yin ke de ni lama ge hi ni la ngone da ne ni de wa ne de tel te ne so so ke ran don da me sa la da me te cha yo go yo ra dikpa cha Delatin dini koala yun ran donga de ten sabran ro yosa dini ngarang zo deha ko ku je garchim bo cha de yores ta den ra yin za pe nan da la loji sena ta nguma de gambo pa ke dini koloma mambo yosa ni dini dela pamo trabala desone Kampa Giki Song Gong De Song Hosa, Kampa Giki, Drangola Yoson, ya, Kampa Giki, Dringola Yos, Dream Hill, Niangola Yose. Then I have 2 band this that the Nazi David. Then Lomanga Heget, Trado and the Trado Roland, then it Maga Namjanda Tenta, Kampa Giki, Ya, de la Drangola Ya, what the 2 band now at la Magava Namjer Tindu. There is. Then is Taborumbo Jik that the Pamodra get anything but the Simjin Pintogan Rodonte so Jik Jan do. Then it hit that Trado in the Motosoka. Oh, Taborumbo Jik, they didn't win a gong the Yoroa, see. And I laris. I love the logic no. And there, the Lagoya the Gangri Sena. Lopung Gungani Loma Jutsu Ha Gogo, Yoris, Takigana Huyamba, so on there. Loma ha go yore. Lome lama la ta choba yindu lame loma la ta chogo yoris. Ta ne ha go yoris. Kare kane yame. Della soba ke da nam yamambo yoris.
And so here there is one really important point to understand regarding this Samaya of the Vajra master and the disciple, that they are equal, not the same. So now, for example, when a child kills his mother, then he has committed one of those really heinous negative deeds that lead to immediate retribution, and then he will take birth in hell. And on the other hand, if the mother kills her child, she has not committed such like a heinous crime without that leads to like a result without immediate result without time in between. But still, she'll take birth in hell. So they both go to hell. The difference is just that there is a difference in the size, the level of the negativity, and therefore there's also a difference in the level of suffering that will be experienced. And so it's very similar with the Vajra master and the disciple, Samaya. So it is said that when the disciple loses the Samaya, then the negativity is greater. There will be more suffering, which is just like this child killing the mother. And the reason why that is the case is because the mother has been more kind to her child. So it's because of kindness. And so the Vajra master is someone who has opened our eyes of wisdom, and therefore he is there's no difference between him and the actual Buddha being there. He's the one who shows us the methods to become liberated from the ocean of suffering. And there cannot be any greater kindness than that. In the one prayer it says, even though I prostrate to the root guru whose qualities equal the Buddha's, but whose kindness is far greater than the kindness of all the Buddhas. And so therefore, if one disrespects the kind root guru, then that is an extremely negative result or karma. And so that is why often we are told you have to respect the spiritual master. So the one who is saying that, so it might seem that maybe it's maybe a bit manipulative, like playing politics, and maybe it's because he wants to be respected. So there's a danger we might see that way. And frankly speaking, also when I was young, I did have those thoughts too when I was first learning the Dharma. But those masters really have no choice but to say that. It is just when disciples don't understand it, then they will just naturally, without even knowing, accumulate a lot of negative karma. And so if one then disrespects and disregards the Vajra master, then just really completely meaninglessly and unknowingly one accumulates a lot of negative karma, which means that one will have to wander in samsara for much longer and experience more suffering. There's this story about Kyobpa, who had this large assembly of disciples. Among them was mahamudra, kind of at the end of the row, and he said a few words. Kyobpa said a few words of praise to mahamudra, and so he called him the Kampa Geshe. He said, Kampa Geshe, you should come sit here in the front at the beginning of the assembly line. And so when he said that, the other disciples there, they didn't like that, and they were a little jealous because Kyobpa pointed out mahamudra. But then after Kyobpa had passed away, it was really mahamudra who became the one who really acted for the benefit of sentient beings extensively. And so at that time, there are stories that at that time, people then recognized that, oh, Kyobpa already knew at that time. And so the reason for having to say that is that it is important to know, of course, the qualities of the guru and also the disciple. So just like the disciple is advised to examine the guru, also the guru can examine the disciple. And so then if the guru, the disciple examines the guru, and if the guru also possesses all of these qualities, then it is as we previously explained.
Gevung over Chakchin Demisi Sumandare. dan de la yang yin ge per na tin karpo ke nam kha dre yo na yang ni dre yung ko yore tin na po ke dre na ya dre yung ko yore ste za mege wa ke dre na yang cha cha chim bong o te dre yung ko re teni gave sang ke dre na ta te dre yung ko yore sen da te ta je sung ko yore de jitin dan jitin sung gong ke sung du cha cha chim bo te gewa ngo ke na yo dre se ke yo ma re so 단데 조 지휴 따라 텔로바게 착진 강가만나나 게데 까나 강기 군 문주를 송아 데니 동다 지바 차도 요래.
Next is Vajra statement 42. Avail to mahamudra through the essence of virtue is impossible. And so that is in response to people's claim that both virtue and non-virtue obscure mahamudra. For example, they reason in this way. They say that if a white cloud obscures the sun, and a black cloud also obscures the sun, they both obscure the sun. And so therefore, also a thought of virtue obscures the nature of mahamudra. And so Jikten Sumgön, in response to that, says that it is not possible for mahamudra to be obscured by virtue. Now, for example, Kyobpa said in the Genshis Mahamudra that the mahamudra cannot be stained by the black and white phenomena of virtue and non-virtue.
단데 저당 jutsu malare ba kengorna na yore nda chaja chimbo gomdu tani tsemi tarate ta hyandung la suba mambo tso yang mulo son tanda song yasa yore de tande jitin sunggung ge de gongba den ndu de kap so tanda ba je gong na sung ge yore kap so da yang je pena chaja chimborang la nyambar yon du che yang je donjo drubja mambo ro je yona yang chaja chimbo te ngo kala ne mata ba da yong sige yo ba da yin za re ma to ke chertang ke ngarang so gebu ko cho jetsam sabat te si de chaja chimbo la ngo to la ne to ba la de zam ke pin to go yo ba yin za then the so je saja chimbo dubzi chano go mari so adelo
in one of Milarepa's songs, Milarepa also says that when you practice mahamudra, you should not engage in other virtuous activities such as reciting prayers and so on. And so that is similar to Jikten Sumgön's intention here, is so that sometimes it is said that virtue cannot obscure the mahamudra. Of course, sometimes it also happens that when you're trying to practice mahamudra, and while you're trying to do that, you're just walking around and doing different other things, then it might not be possible for you to really abide single-pointedly in the essence of mahamudra. And so, however, just generally speaking, and this is really his point here, is that generally speaking, the more virtue one accumulates, the more that will be of benefit to, it will be conducive to one's abiding within the essence of mahamudra, and so therefore it does not actually become an obscuration to mahamudra.
다 델라 지팅 송고 그 예에 값서 데네 안데 초단 초이 랍나 인차的 요래 송 차자 진보던 초이나 데네 게와 탐제 된 초디 랍나 인차인데 되게 찍질을 줍진로 차자 진보 줍지 차가 요 말이서 람지 뒤서 메토단 레거나 인차용도 데네 되게 차자 진보고 또바 보온도 말 핀지 마도 게 teni de la dribzi chak yo mari song ta lam kap so chancho so dun la so panyamni so ke duk yo mari song teni dev tu so ta gandar chaja chimbonde nima dang de nima uzar na yin dang chaja ta gewa tham je tarade chaja chimbo de nima ta we ina gewa tham che dik uzar na yin cha yondu teni de tik la dribzi de chak yo mari song.
And so therefore, Jikten Sumgön says that on the basis, and it is like an ocean and the waves. Mahamudra being like the ocean, and all the virtuous activities or the practices being like the waves. So they don't obscure each other. And so similarly, the virtuous activities don't obscure Mahamudra. And he said, in the context of the path, then we speak about it is like a flower and its fruits. And so when one realizes it is through virtue that one realizes Mahamudra, and then these virtues just help one to increase one's realization even more, but they will not obscure one's practice of Mahamudra. And in the context of the result, he said it's like the sun and the sun rays. So Mahamudra being like the sun and the virtuous activities like the sun rays. Again, the sun and the sun rays cannot obscure one another.
Alright, that the order Dorji song Hekson Batek. Darwin de Jota Jepa de song. Then the Jadang Gangla Mambu Husimari Ticola, that Darwin de Revisibande Sanjeke, Top Jo, Menjik by year, Mandri per Job J. De la Soba Tamje, Darwin de Vichadures, Sanjik Yundi. Then the that Tamje, then he Jota Jepa Chad Yorimatoke, Jimmy no Chayo Marison. Jota Jepa Chatsor then he gang hita Huba in about Solam Jicapso, Timpania Yela, Soba Gomnet, then he Jolam Sucops, Yandapuma Yen Remji, Narsundu, Gandar, Timpa Nyamba Mangawa, si Mandi Job Jenani. Oh, that Tela Namparne. Toba Nampan the Lanrimba, you know, the Dachong Jojirewa. The Dachong Joji imba Dijum Silatine, then the Sotamche, Jodaje Bachad Yuris, Tandala Jodaje and the Songo and the Timder Kiningagaton, Song Yuri. Jerdang around so Trumtala, Dode Patang, Sebran Havasi, Tusuloke, Jole Jibaina, then da. Duze na Matapa Ingori, Matapa in a Luvichi Ingogris, and the Hejata Jayore de, Taran Deni, and the Hejatante, Del Yimbaji Chadayoris.
And then next we come to Vajra statement 43. It says, all results of separation have a cause. So we spoke about that already previously a lot. And so we said that when we listed all these qualities that a Buddha possesses, so we said that the Buddha possesses 10 powers, 4 kinds of fearlessness, 18 unique qualities. So all of these qualities are the results of separation. So the results of separation are the qualities of a Buddha. And so basically the qualities of a Buddha have a cause. The qualities of a Buddha will not arise without a cause. So we mentioned before that first on the path of accumulation, one practices the 4 applications of mindfulness, and then on the path of application, one practices the 4 perfect abandonments. And so in this way, one develops one's mindfulness more. And so then basically, for example, the 18 unique qualities of a Buddha, one develops the quality of mindfulness that never degenerates. And so gradually one's realization increases due to a cause that was already in place. So the point of saying that is to highlight the importance of interdependence. Because, for example, there are some, for example, those who follow the sutra section or the Vaibhashika and so forth, the lower tenet systems, they say that once a cause has arisen, what arises is a compounded phenomenon. And if it is compounded, it is impermanent. And if it is impermanent, it is subject to deception. So this is one way of explaining it, but here it is explained in a different way.
Dorji song yipchi hebye pa teke nangka nyindri nyintu jingun do song. Ta nangka nyindri jingun do de nyintu gungun do re song yore. Ta ndala teni yinga ta tambo sumba te hyuna teni sibo chaksare. Yinga ta sunra tamche dara de dara juza ta juzi zenare kanta tabda hirab nisana sando yonko yore sombare. Teni tab tamje kunzab gacha endu lobe chujin chada yore si. Hirab de dondan tomba nige cha chada yore so. De endu ta nangkwa nyinde ge toba sena perna pampa je yona pampa de cha yongde pampa nangka nangkwa de dan parka sloga nangkwa de ni yermi ba ngo yermi cha yong roba. Ta de tawete toba tarto zenari tawan tarto sina de re song de ying daraje yige yore. Dan Jikten Sumgön ke de hiwa cho jikba cha song re song nangkwa nyinde ge toba shibanda.
Karacha de yore?
Hiwa cho jikba se cho su long song.
Shiva cho tu long wa.
Hiwa cho su long song ba.
And then Vajra statement 44 says, the non-duality of that which one must practice and the means of practice, the merging of two skies, is the Shravaka's realization. So first, when we look at what other people claim, then it might be easier to understand this. So other people claim that the non-duality of the thing to be practiced and the means of practice, the merging of the two skies, is the ultimate result. So what other people claim here is that, so first there is both. There is the method and there is wisdom. So the thing to be practiced and the means. And they say that on all methods, so all means are relative and therefore subject to deception. And then what is to be practiced is wisdom, which is the ultimate truth of emptiness. And the merging of the two skies means, for example, if you have two vases that break, then the space contained in each of them merges into one. So space is indivisible, so the merging of the two skies. And so this is the claim of other people. Then when that happens, then that is the ultimate result or the ultimate realization, the ultimate view. And Jikten Sumgön, in response to that, says that holding such a view is actually falling into the extreme of peace.
Dandela kantar yin ke yibande numze ke marme tawo song. Nomse and marme teni meba chandro wa yindo teni che ta nisin zibe ninzin pan noba zamla teni tan tardo ke tawan du suna teni de tarati yongo yomare song tan dere tela shiwa chochik ba sa ya te chado yore. Ona kandaji gore sedu ta chaja chimbo sinari gomza gomzi de tarwa shibande kapsu neka de gomza gomzi de trawande perna nangkha nangkha rang yin yin ba la nangkha ne laryang tin dang choba nangkha la tin do choba nangku tin le laryang charbab choba charba le laryang teni sabya la tarate jando ke ta meto la so batam je ye choba ta de ta ke timder ke nang nenga je higo yor timder ke nenga de dene lama ke dangwa rang ke mugu ni song den de so ne ta nyamni tanda che thumbo da de bin du dene de ta timder yin ba zam je to ni yin ba ha ko to ba to ni yin ba zam je timder yin ba ran chu to ba ta de ta nenga de hi ju de dene zo cha de yor ye song ba re.
And so the way other people see it is that it is like the exhaustion of the oil in a butter lamp. And so then similarly, so they say it is just like when the oil of the butter lamp is exhausted. Similarly, when dualistic grasping subsides, just like this oil, when it subsides, then so they assert that this is the ultimate view. And so then Teacher Sumgön says that this is not the ultimate view. In fact, it is falling into the extreme of peace, or peaceful nirvana. So what one should do instead is that when one practices mahamudra, so within that state there is no duality between a meditator and a meditation, and one abides like space naturally. And so being like space or like the sky, clouds can appear in the sky, and rain can appear from the clouds, and flowers and so on can grow from the rain. So the point to understand here is the one of interdependence. And so when master's essential instructions and a disciple with devotion come together, and the disciple then practices in such a way, then through mere observance of interdependent origination, the disciple will be able to understand emptiness and vice versa. Through seeing emptiness, they will understand interdependent origination. So that's the essential point to be understood here.
Namkwa nyindi ke toba hibande hobs tena che lela po ha konda dan rawa che ri ma do ke ngu ke ge hini chimbo to so ka pinsun che che la kan de nang de ba ta namkwa nyindi ke toba de kan re so na tan ra che sa yo re ten zang ngarang so ke hob de kala le la la ndo yo ban de so la yang ning ti ji ne de chi jo de kar chimbo yo re ngarang so namjun che am san la de chu la tu so na dara de lo ba ke song yan de da namkwa nyindi ke toba shiba de ni shu de ndravecha da norsa chimbo hwe yo re de zang jiam san la de chu le tu se du dong to la de ge nenga de ha ma ba yin na namkwa nyindi ke toba ro cha ro yo ro namkwa nyindi ke toba cha na de nyindi hwa cho ji ba zam ma do to ma so den ra yin za da la ndite la tene nyamlin ta nyam da la che gom zenare da na wen tene che gom tu su chi ju jike jika tene su so ga za la ma la so wan de ju de kar chim bo shu yo re tene pa pa la ma sim chin na nin je je da ji ga ra there is.
And so this realization of the merging of the two skies, so that's actually something we cannot just understand like right away. So it's actually a point that the past masters have discussed extensively what that really refers to, this realization of the merging of the two skies and so on. So of course it's not something that we will understand right away, but it's important to persevere. And Kyobpa also said, without a single thought, look decisively at the ultimate meaning. So then here there is a great danger of kind of going astray or being mistaken, or kind of having a nihilistic view and so on. So looking at the ultimate meaning without a single thought, if now one doesn't understand the crucial point of that, and then it becomes as though there are two skies. So once realization becomes as though there are two skies, and when they merge, then that's the final realization. So that is actually not the ultimate realization. And so to overcome it, one should practice also analytical meditation, and it is very important to supplicate to the root guru and also to cultivate compassion for sentient beings.
Teni ta mambo chi jo yore ji go yore ta che long to de nyamni za long nyamni yore ba ta nyamni dam da shi ji jo yore pe na jung ze hyuna ta de so je dang ke ko talam cha de yore de dal sa bi ban de la go ya chimbo yore sa bi ba de ke nenga de song yong go yore na do ge dang go yore pe na ngaran so long zin de la mi ju de son song yong ge long zin de teni ta ngaran zo ge wang bo go tam ji yong zo ba ga ne te wong ni ge am cho ni ge bu ga ga teni zo mo ni ge mei ni ge am cho ni ga teni zo mo ni ge de make wong bu ga ga teni de zo yin zo mo tam ji ge na da teni ogo tamje teni kangba la so ba ka ne teni longpe tanda long zong ne tanda we ne ta menga mangbo yo re do so ta je de mari ze ne song ko yo mari do so je ri de ta sa bi ban de ngara zu long ben ba jin sen do jin de de re dan de ne luk paran jog ba sab song do luk paran jog ba sen du rawap den jog ba long sam trawa de 간다르 데리데 ngarazo sem ke nyuksam de indu sem hibande ya rawa se yago yo ba indu long hibande rawa se yaba yina deni long rawa de yo de long kawa ne gere se du long rawa de yo ta ba na long de de bo de ne ge yo res long de bo la ran yi de ne yo belong de ran yi de ne belong da khat na ju ni pan ro ro ka long de so ran yin ke long de cha ke yo ma re je tang ngarang zu bu nang ga ta za bu long nga yo re ta de so den de bu to ne ri de ta ra wa ke ko ran yin ke long de long sam cha wa hi bu de se ba ko long de ne de wo la ran yin ke ne ke yo re so tan den ne na yong tin ha chang chen bo nyam da to ba la so ba bo ndon ba ma ji ba ji ba se ba de la so ba ge yong tin mang bo sung ge yo re la ne ka ge je zu bu ge de tang de so tham je yang de wo la long zu man da ke ha chang ke pin to chim bo yo so na sung ge yo ta long zong hi ban de ne ne ma ju ban jo ba de do
So next is Vajra statement 45. It says, to enter into an unbound state, not holding the wind, is a profound with instruction. So no one thinks that with the winds, when one practices the channels and winds, there's all sorts of things that can be practiced and achieved. And so generally, the practice of the winds, of holding the winds, is a skillful path, but not holding the winds being a profound instruction. So here, this term profound should be understood. That has a very important meaning. And so also according to the Anuttara Yoga Tantra, the highest Yoga Tantra, there are instructions of how to hold the winds. And for example, there's one method where one is instructed to block all one's sense gates, all the entrances, the openings. So the 9 openings. And so with one's thumbs, one blocks, closes the ears, and then with one's, the index finger and the middle finger, those 2 fingers, one blocks the eyes, and with the other fingers, one blocks the nose, and with one's feet, one blocks the lower gates. And so then there's many different instructions on how to hold the winds. So this one here is not saying that one shouldn't do that at all. There are instructions to do that, but profound here refers to holding the vase breath, and the instruction that is profound is to hold it at ease, so to hold it loosely or an unbound state, the unbound state here. That is profound. And holding it in an unbound state or loosely means to let the winds and the mind be in their natural state, settle naturally. And so this naturally abiding wind mind, the subtle wind mind, is what we call the innate mind itself. And so basically it's that mind that has to settle in its natural state. And therefore the winds also, here we are told that the winds therefore have to settle in their natural state, because when the winds abide in the natural state, then they abide below the navel. That's their natural abiding place, the natural abiding place of the winds. So when the winds that go through our other openings, like our nose and mouth and so on, are not the naturally abiding winds, not those subtle winds. So generally we speak about 5 different winds throughout our bodies, but so the subtle wind mind is said to naturally abide below the navel, and therefore the focus on the navel only is actually said to lead to many really great qualities, to really enhance one's experience and realization, to clear away sadness and bring about happiness, and also has some physical health benefits. So many great benefits come from the mind abiding below the navel. So, and the mind abiding below the navel is this uncontrived, kind of natural abiding, the unbound abiding of the mind wind.
Jerdan ke da long jorwa yidin so karchembo mambo chake yore perna ngupa tani gangwa hyewa ndadran phimba se long jorwa yidin so karchembo chake yore da daran jitin sungong ndena lukporn jo belong sab song do jate yang longjong to so jidu chur yin do yabo je thomna yabo rima do mathomna to so ke ngarang ke salam ko yongtin rawo to so pa sachu rawo yongne je te yong to ko yo mare song re di jumsen le tine tene yishik kandar darate longsam yermi ke moto ba jule jebar se bala tene darate rawa ko longde karchimbo yin song.
And so in general, the various breathing practices, such as there's the 4 like applications of the winds, that's also very important. For example, those 4 applications are, first there's the inhalation, then first is inhaling, then there is filling, then there is like moving around, and then there is spreading. And so they are also very important. But Jikten Sumgön also says that the winds in their natural state is a very profound point. Of course, if those previous practices, if one practices them really properly, then that's excellent. But if one doesn't practice, if one isn't able to practice them properly, then also the qualities of the bhumis and the paths will not come about. And so therefore it is profound point for the wind mind to abide in union below the navel in a natural state, so that this realization can also arise within one's mind.
Oh yeah, dan tene teo de dorji song yipchi hyedo ba tege namshi lama usar phobun cho song mandere. Dan namshi lama usar pho jende dan pho an ge cho de bande yin song ge yorwa. Da song de da dambo de la ndere usar shibande jungze hyubaina ye usar dang lamju usar ni yore that's all rawala ye usar de korang arang so ge ye chu ju ko rang yin zan da ye korang chuni ga rang yin de usar rang yin cha de yore de hin yin rang yin zan da nga ga la ye usar shu ne yang yang hyun ba dani lam ju usar de da lama ke da da ngo zhen yong ban de da nyam le ke nyam le ke ran ba ngo zhen yong ban de nyam so le yin du dini si so da dani nyam le so ne ga ke ran chu un du chedang nga zon chwa chu ko sa la re de gantar te ni ran thu undu ma pang la bon ju pa na yin sen ta ta hi la me song do yo te dang yo to go don je usar te ni ta yer mi de njur ne ta te la usar ma win ri ba se chitang ta andare yin yan tan di kap su hyo go ya chik de po a hi ban de de po an de la chitang ka ta po a re ma bo hyu yo de ba res.
And then Vajra statement 46 says, the supreme transference of consciousness is that the consciousness is the guru who is luminosity. So it is said that this is the supreme power or transference of consciousness. So the luminosity, there is two kinds of luminosity. There's the ground luminosity and the path luminosity. And the ground luminosity is the nature of Dharmakaya or Dharmata, the reality itself. It's Buddha nature. It is the basis, the ground luminosity according to the tantric vehicle, as you mentioned before. Then, so that's the ground luminosity, and the path luminosity is the practice introduced to us by the guru, that we then practice properly and then later really understand its crucial point. So that's the path luminosity. And so it is generally said that the luminosity at the time of death is the Dharmakaya luminosity, and recognizing it is like a child jumping onto its mother's lap. And at that point, the ground and path luminosity dissolve into one. So this is how it is said generally. But here, so we are speaking about powa, the transference of consciousness, and there's many different kinds.
Tan de la chertang ke ngarang so powan de la po ke yol la lama yang na sanje de yedam dung ko la ta chik barwa to so deni poza de la deni longsam ni ke yingzhe ke da le xiong ne deni tang kolo ngarang so kolo nga yo wa zang kolo nga deni rem ji ju de deni rowa recto ke sang ngarang so den kolo re ke nam yo ban de so tam je garne deni ta lam to gala ta yemi ta am pojen de cha de yo re and then the ta tambo de la ngarang so de ye usar de ta ye domani ko usabaran yin de tang lamdus lama ngote yom ba de ke de tang teni ta zo de teni lama ke tok tang teni ngo yemi de se to ba yina ta usar po cho hibanan de cha de yo nam hil lama usar po cho se.
So in general, when we practice powa, then there is this place where we transfer to. So it's the guru, or it's the Buddha, or the Yidam. And then the one who is transferring the consciousness is transferred in the form of, for example, a seed syllable, which is like someone riding a horse. And so then this like sphere that is transferred, the consciousness, then gradually goes through the 5 main chakras in the body, and as it traverses these chakras, the seeds of the 6 realms of samsara are kind of overcome or traversed, and so then one transcends them. One transcends the seeds of the 6 realms. And then having transcended them, one transfers, merging indivisibly with the Guru's heart. And so there's the ground luminosity, which is the empty ground that is naturally luminous. And then there is the path luminosity, which are the instructions by the Guru. And so then when one merges indivisibly with the Guru's heart, then one recognizes that. So if one is able to merge indivisibly with the Guru's heart, then it is said that this is the supreme power of luminosity.
Chirtan tarang gana yingde tala hyone son lungsam ke tara yingde ke tala hyone se wanda jikten sungo ke son de tara de minba remjin po cha de yore son minba remjin po posar minba dan po cho de gare cha de yore sina dane soso ke number shi ban de dang dene lama da tara de lama dan chu ju ko som dene chola cho ya wa da dang Mala Maria Batava, the name Posan Posi Tamji the Travangal, Yambranjo Banda, so in Sungayores. Da then the Yena and Aranzo Tara, and data Yawala, Yan Lam Remji, Yamayona, Katok data Viji, Tongabita, Titical Junze, Hugains.
So, just I mentioned before, there's the seed syllable, which is like one riding a horse. So also Jikten Sumgön had said that, like on the lower kind of lower levels, it is transfers gradually, and this is the supreme transference, which is when one's consciousness and the Guru's mind and the Dharmakaya dissolve into one, just like water pouring into water or butter pouring into butter. So the point here is that that is accomplished mainly through abiding in a meditative equipoise where there is no duality between one who transfers and a transference. But however, for that to happen directly right away is also difficult. So it is something that also must be accomplished in stages, which I will speak about briefly.
Chirtang around so Dorji Lundala, sing around Zulundala, Dorji Lundala, Tene, Jew Ju, Nepe Ye, Jew Serchezi Ju, Denezi Ye, Then Panjing Royak Jeans and some yores. That day and do Serchezi Juna de la Tarandi Paletop Jangsam Carpotang, Maletop, Jangsam Marpo, Sungayore. They Paletop Jansan Carbon de Naranzo, Minsana, Namjune, Minsana Nen and Degging Aranzola, then in the Tratan, Rubata, Gangtan, Juba Lasoban, the datam Jivers is
Ruba Gangdang
Juba. Tenida Maletop, Tilemabo, the Jertan, Sanel, Nekures, then Sanel Nene, then Decke. That had a chata, Papa, Deni, Papa can do la subanda tamjela, Pojo you wanted, so take a sillet, the chayong your reason. They give that the Yana chance, there is.
So, our body is referred to as the Vajra body, and it is that it arises from a cause, and so there's a cause that produces it. There is a ground where it abides, and there's conditions that disintegrate it. The cause that make it arise are the white drops of one's father and the red drops of one's mother. And so the white drop of one's father abides at the point between one's eyebrows and leads to the arising of Oh, I can't read my handwriting. So it leads to the arising of one's hair, the bones, the bone marrow, and the tendons. And the red drop from one's mother that abides at the secret chakra, that produces the flesh, the blood, the skin, and the skin's complexion.
다 되는 쟁도 희반데 간다랑 알아서 챔피언로 안더 리 다음 부당라고데 저당티 파크 사원데 마크 사원이 되니 또 뭐고 또박 레롱 그 되니 드링도 ndene 되니 자와만 전제 송이나 되니 챔피언로 요레스나 송고요 바로와 다데 인자 지진 사마데다 옌뱅이 바요 말이데다 간다르 첸로 버캅서 다 나란서 다부 현실라다 레와 자가 요레다 다부 현실라 레와 자도 포와 히반다른 레와 되니 차용고 요르와 다 대인자 담 포와데 남주 나란서 냠리 남주 냠리 딱 소소 가레가나 르난초데 다 되니 깝스 바바 효알라 네 토마라 제 장조그 샘 문드로부터네 아다 냠리 제 단나나네 되니 랑게 쪼라 되니 Chokang zam chisala teni sosok zab chokang za teren sarwa. Teni sosok zab lama gom teni ta zab lama teyanchi ngaranzo jatsu na yin nang la ran yimi ba te tabiche gongo yore chuju kota yermanchi ba.
And so then there are those causes or conditions that lead to death. And so when we die, then those drops of father and mother, they meet and then merge. So that is, they are driven by the karmic winds of ignorance. They are moved by these karmic winds, and then they move through the central channel, and then they meet, and they mix, they merge, and when they merge, then one dies. And so in general, of course, there are many different conditions that lead to death, but just now, this is how it is explained normally. And so then when we die, it is our hope to be born in the Pure Land, and that is connected to the instructions of Powa. And so normally, of course, one can continue to practice whatever one likes to practice, but then in relation to that, also one practices one's normal practice. On top of that, one can also practice Powa. And so for that one, like before, one cultivates bodhicitta in the beginning, and then one visualizes one's root guru above an half an arm's length above one's crown, appearing like a rainbow, but lacking any inherent nature, and being indivisible from the Dharmakaya.
Then the rank sangne de then tara yadan dorje pamo then the sorkan zamje gomne then tela je namju je gong jin chalo the ujin da rujin yo ban de so tamje dan then sapa me be de nyam dan dimba de tabe gongo yores.
So then one visualizes at one secret place the Yidam Vajra Yogini, about the size of a finger. And so the way she is normally described with all the ornaments and the bone ornaments and so forth, crown ornaments, and appearing in an expression of undefiled bliss.
다 되니 랑 다히닝에 휴먼다면서 랑 소소게 예당 강이 반다 곰다 고 요로와 곰드 되니 랑 토카라 되니 틱레 카포 세르마 잠제 곰 되니 다히 예담 도르제 파메 토카라 되니 틱레 마포 세마 잠제 곰드 되니 다 소소게 티 되니 예담 도르제 파메 nga 요로와 옴 사마단 라그네 디 nga데 차르제 도네 도운데 테니 담보티 소소그 투가게 텔레카보테다 도르지파메 투가게 텔레마보테니 이에미 반디네 이에미 덴디네 테니 텔레 조조글로 깔라마번 당든딘 바지도 저송 테니 드라 당한건 도운데 테니 메 Sanela Dechong za Dechong Kolo Yorwa Zanda Sumju Soniji. And Della Cora Linson, Jang around Sunam Chinch. Sanela. Della Cora Linson Corne.
Karakorasum.
Cora Yekor.
Cora Gamkin.
Cora Janki Tileter, Hunting Teniam.
Because Sanela Tugi Orava. Didn't Tila the Corno.
Tile Cora Jangro. Cora Jane, Tini Yatini. Corazon Jatini,
Yeko Corazon, right?
Yeko Corazon Jat. Teni Yantin about the down the Tarachi, Teni Tarate, Tewala, Tewazane Katatola, Yang, Tarawa Coraja, Tewala, Zanis Tuchiraki Yorova, Tuchiraki, Tela Linsom Cor. Teni Ya Devin Ninkala, Chujun Colola, Zandab J or Tela Yang, Ninka Chujun Colo Zandabla Cora Deve. Tini rem chi tini rimpa lomchu jun kolo la zandap chidok yo ba tela yang te tabo kora lin som korne. Tini ta chi wo dechin jun kolo la zandap sunchu soni yorwa ta tela kora lin som korne. Tini ti jine ta tarate ya tini lama tuka la yampo. Tini lama tuka la yampo se ta tina ngo yermi tu ta chaja chimbo ngo nga la tini lamir yon ta te tabo je wena nyamli ta tindra kato ne. Nyamlin Chindu, that Namshi Lama or some poa, can Yamlin the Lamrembando, the Naven, Yongo Yoris.
And so, before that, actually, also you have to visualize yourself as your own Yidam deity. And so then at your own heart is a white bindu, the size of a pea. And at Vajra Yogini's heart, at your secret chakra, is a red bindu, also the size of a pea. And then you recite Vajra Yogini's mantra once. And then the white drop in your own heart goes down to the red drop in Vajra Yogini's heart. And there they merge into one. And so then the bindu becomes a bindu that is white and reddish, so white with a kind of a red radiance. And then you recite the mantra, and so you're in the secret chakra then, and then think that the secret chakra of great bliss consists of 32 channels, and then think that that bindu goes 3 circles, circling clockwise in that chakra, and then it goes up to the navel, where there is the emanation chakra that consists of 64 subsidiary channels. And again, it makes the bindu takes 3 rounds there, and then it goes up to the heart chakra, the dharma chakra, which has 8 channels, and again it goes 3 rounds there, and then it goes up to the throat chakra of enjoyment, where there are 16 channels, and so again it takes 3 rounds there, and then it goes up to the great bliss chakra at the crown, which consists of 32 channels, and again it takes 3 rounds there, and after that then the bindu transfers into the heart of the guru above your crown, and then merges indivisibly with the guru's mind, and then you rest in a state of mahamudra. So this is how one practices or trains in this poa, the transference into the guru's luminous heart.
Tati o the Dorji Son Yuju He Dunba. Janchuk Simje Ranzo Sanje Yin Sombandere. Tandala Yang Yin Ge Sanje de Tambo ta Jancho Cho the Semji in the Remji Tanavan, Sanje and ta Kantarchi Puhen Sepe Me Yin do se. Puhen says that made Kanda the Hakora, that data which Nuka Yoris. Puhen Sena, that may I Yomara. A day 19 Yiki Yori, that and Jikten Sungoka, Dennis Janjuk Sim Ranzuk Chad Yuri song. Sanji Shiband.
Vajra statement 47 says, the Buddha is the embodiment of the resolve for awakening, so the supreme mind of enlightenment, bodhicitta, and that is because other people claim that after one has obtained nirvana, the Buddha is like a fire whose wood has been used up. And so Jikten Sumgön said that this is not how it is. A Buddha doesn't become like that, but a Buddha is an embodiment of bodhicitta.
다 대인도 간다르 산제게 람드는 데니 제 손이 사발라 데네 데니 레버게 데니 산제지 공방도 대야제 자분 레버 지어도 제바 송바 인도 데니 문제 다 초당 das chola so ba denin lapchin sa ba la denin rever tham je remji sinda pebze la so ba ke travel ta nami kin rever tham je te ta mi yong ba te ta bi yindu sanje ki ban de la deni gandar je yongdi tan chele tham je deni dimba ga ran yin te ta bi je ri ma to ke dem bikhen se be me na yin ma re song re deni 베나 니마요나 니마레 우저 문타미 반토와 데이터베지 상제에서 되더니 용딘 탐지 문타미 바 데이터 조용 거요레스.
And then Vajra statement 47 says, the Buddha is the embodiment of the resolve for awakening. Had already. So then, when one practices the path to Buddhahood, one attains the results through gathering the two accumulations. And so we have said before, the result of separation has a cause, which is to accumulate great merit, and then basically having created various causes, various results ripen, such as the major and the minor marks of a Buddha, and the other qualities of a Buddha, then just naturally arise. So therefore the Buddha is someone who is an embodiment, who possesses enlightened activities and enlightened qualities and so on, and he's not just like how is it called, consumed firewood, extinguished fire. So he's not just like fire whose wood has been used up, but he's more like the sun whose sun rays shine kind of uninterruptedly. So when one attains enlightenment, one's enlightened qualities also become kind of uninterrupted.
간다르 산지 히자 띵중 renjong ko sonne gangla rehi mambo hyubatado tandaji sanje hisawa ne 띵진 rewan jungwa ko chik chadu yore so tene tela tene yongding tamje mezeb jinj jimba deta be chadu yore so te dalang gombo sambe gombo chambes sanje zungi tabe te yangda medin tenrami la ye nga yin tamje de dongji mi ba tenrami tinqin dangchong dongmi be sang bu mi tenrami changqin yin de tin de ne minbar sim mi tenrami nimzu yin tin de ne menban jo mi tenrami yi non ren jo wa ne ni par ka mi tenrami ni par ma ka tenrami da ni yin de jin le ne song wa de dang ra wa mi nang ka dang ra ge wa ye yimi de dang ra wa mi jikten len de ba robin phun zo ma le ba de ne ba ye tin yin ser sai jing ge da dang ra so.
So in the previous statement we said that a Buddha is like a form, an embodiment of interdependence, and so therefore the enlightened, the Buddha embodies enlightened qualities, and does not just become nothing. So then there's a quote by Maitreyanatha: the Buddha is like a reflection, yet the reflection being devoid of melody is unlike him. He is like the drum of the gods, which, not being universally beneficial, is yet unlike him. He is like a vast cloud which, not abandoning worthless seeds, is yet unlike him. He is like the mighty Brahma who, not perpetually causing maturation, is yet unlike him. He is like the orb of the sun which, not perpetually overcoming darkness, is yet unlike him. He is like the wish-fulfilling gem which, not being as rare as he, is yet unlike him. He is like an echo that arising from conditions is yet unlike him. He is like space that, not being the basis for virtue, is yet unlike him. Since he is the lasting support of abundant benefit of all sentient beings in this world and the transmundane spheres, he is like the pure mandala of the earth.
다 간다르 추군 희상 밥지 내로tin song 단데 담부 추공바 직바게 용수조 바 띵도 용수조 바 띵는 데도 요래 되네 희자 잠소 따버 된 친킨데 다 산지게 독 나바 탐진진 비시리 대 이시대 그 다제 틀레 durzalang towards bade janchok semdang niji chimbo la rale du yudu teni zewa teni detar yungwa da yang teni nuba de yang je jumje timder ka bab ji thoni nelok de ha kondu don to yundu ti thon tena yung ko yor ta de ta ramba thoni teni tambe chu gongba jikba hibande jidi sumjung gombo ke teni je 콩그 끝에 강보라 되니 깔레 긍알주네 데이터 되니 스트랍 마랑소 진족 탐제라 야야바데 되니 따라 시자 군직 군신 주제제 틴더네 라완던 두공파 렌치 퍼제 팀파 센터 para 히럽 투상건 벤진저지 숨바이긴다 다 히에바단 드르버톤은 징고 요자 땡아르조가 데이터베지 파히야게 고가 종 천니야게 고가 종다 고감데 대가 정고 고가 마연바 수남 침보 레도 수나 침보제게 되니 고갑제 인상 에 참말라 지세랑 휴이스.
So in the very beginning, so the first verse was the first verse was the nature of the fundamental nature of all phenomena is taught, and actually all of the other verses of the Gong Chik are really contained within this first verse. And the one who knew the nature of all phenomena, the fundamental nature of all phenomena, this vast ocean of things to be known, is the omniscient wisdom of the Buddha. And through his enlightened activities, then tameable ones are being liberated out of bodhicitta and compassion and love. And then his powers manifest due to interdependent origination to lead us to realize, understand the natural state of the mind. So the Gong Chik really is the life work of Lord Jikten Sumgön that his disciple Sherab Chungna had put together, and during many hardships for us future disciples. And so then there's this prayer that we always recite, may the teachings of Lord of Jikten Sumgön, the Master of Interdependence, increase through practice and meditation and learning. So this is how we sustain the teachings. If we practice them and we study them. And so not having this opportunity to teach that, and also you having the opportunity to listen, does not just arise for no reason, but it's an opportunity that arises due to great karma, good karma, and merit, and I rejoice in all of that.
Jemlare bake pa lam hyapto dbenjar sumba yinda tarande jabjengar pa lam hyapto dbenjar tene dadande sachande jabjengar chinumbo jige dinsa jige dinsa thoma dinsa zo de chade yore denzan dandela soso rani ge druptoni tana chuba jimbuju suande tene sunam chimbo in sankuyo de yindo teni ngaran su chi lek wangke dambo ngoshi dine chi chukuto ne ke cha hi ya dang chebar de teni data yonglok ja chimbo che teni hiksa de che chozo gulo data ba che noso longba che la data ba yongwan de yang teni leta sunam mola mambo zomba la dine songwa ki ichi yo la teni zo chikyu de chirang sun de so la nyamli nang kin da chu de nyong kin tam che teni la nying taba ne kadin che dan ji su yang hyugi
Also, Venerable said that the best service to the Guru is to apply the instructions and practice them. And so this is a very special place of practice of His Eminence Garchen Rinpoche. It's his first real center outside of Tibet that was established here. And I also feel that having been able to practice and be here is an incredible merit. And so all of this is due to the force of karma, so that we all know each other and can speak about the Dharma to each other, and especially study this really vast text, the Gong Chik, together. That this has come to the Western countries is really the result of a lot of meritorious karma and aspiration prayers. I trust in that. And so all of you who practice that and who listen to the Dharma, I rejoice and from the bottom of my heart.
Ta de gonjen de hepar sibala lapar de ke de yinji ke la he godu ngne ke che na yin ke che nga ke che na yin de ta so cha de yursina ke jer ina cha de yure yin ta ban tu ji che dan ji su ran hyo teni ke de pa chirang zu go na nga kana ke dran ro de ta di lo de so jin yong go no de yin za de za ma na yin beli koran cha de yor koran gro ba che nda che teni yin ta ban tu ji che teni gong du ba na yin gen de so la ngarang so gen zerem de so la and da yong yan de tu ji jang ki zo wa teni ngarang so director Christina re chama la teni yin ta ban tu ji che de ji su ran hyo gi
So then also the fact that we could listen to these teachings on the Gong Chik in the English language is due to the translator Ina, who really has been like my tongue at that time. And so I really thank you also from the bottom of my heart, and I rejoice. And also the fact that you're all able to hear those teachings is because of technology. And so Billy has made that happen. He has gotten that technology going so that we can listen to the teachings. So I also thank him from the bottom of my heart. And also everyone else, the director, Christina, and so on, who have put this program together, and of everyone who has provided all the necessary conditions for this to happen. I'm very grateful to all of you.
Yeah. Me was a toji jungle, the man is a budget of Tangiza, good change, Yamin the Orange, Chancellor. Oh, Bezaza do Samaya, Manabalaya, Bezaza do Tinoba, the Randa member, so the Gaya member, Subajaya member, Norado member, Zavaz the member, Zavagama, Suzame, Sudan Shirangoro, Hong, ha, Banga. Sarvada danga dan bezo mame bezo ba ma samaya za do wa da dan gunde dan je je sun da sabada yo be ge ve zawan da dan sim jin dam je nyur da la na me ba yang da ba zo ba san rumbo je do ba je je dan dan zera dam je da la ma la ba la ye ji zo zo la zan yong den jam zo nga la wa Dindre donjendre begele zo pama simjin damje dedan danger je ngendo damje da da dongwar janju zumba ganda za yoba deda kunje molandra ba jo pabe yarna aina deva yendo kansu zan garje rezo zhonji dingom ba tu se ji dem Pardin Garjin Kuze Gajar de Kanre Rave Korve Jingam So Pindang Dewa Malun Joan Jin Zewa Tinzin Jam So Shabis and the Band Danger Je Sunam de Tomje Zubani Tovani Berdana Banzin Jigana Jobalon Robai Sibin Solan Roa Roa Simjin Nepa Jiniba Nirda Nele Darja Ruane Namale Bata Me Barjo. May every being alien with the disease be free at once from every malady. May all the sickness that afflicts the living be instantly and permanently healed. Chancho Senjo Renpo Ma Je Ban Nan Je Jor Je Je Bai Nyan Bai Me Bai Ya Kone